Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Live Ones. Happy Friday. It is December 3rd, 2021. We are one day away from College Football Conference Championship Saturday. Still, in my book, 3 playoff spots up for grabs. Michigan's still got to win its way in, as far as I'm concerned. Alabama is a dead team walking. When they lose to Georgia tomorrow, they're out, which means the winner of the Big 12 title game could get in if everything else shakes out right. Ohio State could still backdoor their way in if Michigan and Alabama lose and Baylor upsets Oklahoma State, or God help us, Notre Dame could get in again if the unthinkable happens and Michigan, Alabama, and Cincinnati all lose tomorrow. We will be glued to the TV all day as usual. The big news today is the decision of the MLB owners to lock out the players for the first time since 1990. I went on a big rant on this yesterday, which I'll summarize by saying this one is absolutely 100% the owner's fault. And it's just the logical endpoint of 20 years of analytics completely poisoning the game. You cannot draft someone at 18, pay them ramen noodle salary for 5 years through the farm system, bring them up to the majors where they get locked into years of salary arbitration on their rookie deals that results in them not being allowed to hit free agency until they're 29 or 30, and then actively collude among yourselves to depress the free agent market by saying, well, everyone's washed up at 30, so you're not going to get any more value out of them. I mean, how many times have we seen it in the last 5 or 6 years? Free agency hits in the offseason, and what's the headline every day on the MLB network for months on end? Look at all these all-star players just sitting there on the market. Can you believe nobody has signed these guys? That's by design, and everybody knows it. If baseball is going to be governed by analytics that determine the end of a man's athletic prime, then it is simply not fair for a team that drafts a player at the beginning of their athletic prime to be able to own them all the way through the end of their athletic prime, be able to cut them at any time because their crap farm systems did a lousy job in developing them, and the players have no recourse for it. That has to change. And frankly, it'd be beneficial for the owners for it to change. It would rein in the elite players that are now all demanding the monster 10 to 13 year, $300, $400 million contracts when they're hitting free agency at 26 or 27. That part is in their interest. Had to take the day off unexpectedly yesterday. Hopefully the break will help finish out the week strong. It's not been the best one so far at all. We have college hoops, NBA, and the NHL to go over tonight. Let's get right to it with the big game for tonight, Purdue and Iowa. Purdue is better than Iowa for sure, but are they 12.5 points better than Iowa? That's a much tougher sell. Both teams are 7-0, and they rank in the top 3 in offensive efficiency. Purdue's better at the defensive end, absolutely, but keeping Iowa in check is going to be rough. Not only do the Hawkeyes have they scored 75 or more points in every single game this year, they averaged 94 points. That's just below Purdue. We saw what Iowa was able to do early on against Virginia, one of the toughest defenses in all of college basketball. 75 points, including 44 in the first half. The Hawkeyes are operating on one more day of rest than the Boilermakers. I'm feeling something like an 87-79 game tonight. Take the Road Dogs and this incredibly generous number of 12.5 points. I don't think Purdue's going to be able to cover it. So moving on, we're going to stick in the Big Ten. And Rutgers in Illinois. And Rutgers was considered a bubble team to go dancing this March, so when it suffered back-to-back humiliating losses to Lafayette and UMass, early indications was that their chances to make another one of their rare runs in the tournament was lost. Speaking of teams who have not lived up to expectations, the Fighting Illini, early season favorites to win the Big Ten, are sitting at 5-2 and have been a terrible spread team to open the season, failing to cover 4 out of their last 5 times as a favorite. Part of that had to do with the 3-game suspension handed down to center Kofi Cockburn to start the year. This offense lives and dies by the 7-footer from Jamaica, who's been good for 27 points, 10 rebounds, and 6 assists in a game in the 4 games he has played thus far. There's been nobody like Cockburn in the country this year. He'll obviously be active tonight, and that's bad news for the Scarlet Knights, who, while they have a decent enough defense, certainly in the top 20 in the nation, don't have anybody who's going to be able to defend against Cockburn in the paint. Kofi's going to go off on these guys, and Rutgers' paltry 263rd ranked offense is just not going to be able to keep pace. Take the home favorites tonight, Illinois minus 7.5 points. So over to the NBA and the Sixers and the Hawks. You can like backing the Hawks, you can hate backing the Hawks, but you cannot deny the tear they've been on since the month of November started, both straight up and against the spread. The Hawks have won 8 out of their last 9, only losing to a tough Knicks team in that stretch last Saturday. They have not only been covering in these wins, but some of them have just been absolute jokes of blowouts. They beat the Spurs by 18. They beat the Grizzlies 132-100. Trae Young appears for all intents and purposes to have gotten his groove back. So what do I do when I take a look at the Hawks at home in this spot in the form that they're in against the team they beat in the playoffs last year in the 76ers with all the problems the Sixers have been having through the month of November? It's an auto fade, baby. You don't even think about it. The Sixers have lost 7 out of their last 10, and they've been losing some demoralizing heartbreakers. An overtime game to the Timberwolves over the weekend, an 88-87 defensive nail-biter against Boston on Wednesday. The trials and tribulations of this Sixers team with the Ben Simmons situation, their COVID outbreak, and injuries have completely just worn them out in the early going. I wouldn't trust them to win a pickup game at a playground in South Philly right now. Give me the Hawks at home, minus 1.5 points. So then moving over to the Mountain Time Zone and the Jazz and the Celtics. The Jazz are favored by 8 points tonight, and yes, the Jazz really are just that damn good. Third-ranked offense in the NBA, third-ranked defense to go with it. They've played through injuries, through illnesses, and through the short offseason on top of it. Jaylen Brown is out tonight for the Celtics for load management, so you can look for Rudy Gobert to eat tonight. He's going to just absolutely go off. Add to that the usual suspects of Mitchell, Bogdanovich, and Clarkson all contributing like they normally do at home, and the Jazz should easily be able to go off for a total in the low 110s tonight. And that stout defense of theirs should keep the Celtics' soft offense somewhere around the century mark, maybe less than that. Take the Jazz at home, minus 8 points tonight. That one's an easy play. So then finally, short slate in the NHL tonight, but one game I do like is the Ducks and the Flames. And I'll tell you what, this season was supposed to be a struggle for the Ducks. They were projected as one of the worst teams in the league with some of the longest odds on the Stanley Cup Futures Board. Instead, they're sitting pretty at 13-8-3, and they're the absolute best puck line team in the NHL. They win big as favorites, and they either win or keep it close as underdogs. And they are a home dog tonight against the Calgary Flames, who, while they're back into winning form with 6 wins in their last 7 games after the slump they had in early November, they're winning tight and getting it done on defense rather than overwhelming their opponents with goals like they've been doing in the early part of the season. The Flames are on the second night of a road back-to-back and are going to have to contend with some tired legs, so I don't expect a whole ton of goals from their side tonight. Backup Dan Vladar is in goal for Calgary tonight, but he's been more than fine when called on so far this year. 4-0-1 with a 1.57 GAA and .946 save percentage. 2 shutouts. Those are fantastic numbers. No reason at all to concern yourself with the possibility of the Ducks beating up on a lesser goalie. Between these two teams' defenses and Calgary's fatigue factor, I really like the under 5.5 goals tonight. That is my 5th and final play for the night. Everyone bet safe, stay safe. Follow us on Twitter at Live One Sports. Check us out on Roku and Fire TV at the Live Ones. Have yourselves a great Friday night, and I will see you tomorrow.